Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at one of the stakes events on Saturday of this 4th of July week at Saratoga. And speaking of the 4th of July holiday weekend coming up, you do want to take advantage of this promotion we've got going on at shop.drf.com. 15% off almost everything in the DRF shop. So make sure to head on over to shop.drf.com and use that coupon code July15 off. Well, Mike, race 3 pretty early on this Saturday card is the Grade 3 Sanford. This one for the 2-year-olds going the 6 furlong distance. Traditionally, one of the first races for the 2-year-olds at the Saratoga meet. This year, running it a week earlier than usual at this 4th of July week before the official Saratoga meet starts. Only 6 runners signed on, but I think we've got some talented horses in this field.
There's a chance some of them turn out to be pretty good. I guess we'll find out as time goes on. I hate to cold water these races, David, but these 2-year-old stakes races just aren't that interesting anymore. These horses don't get started until way too late. And so this is basically an entry-level allowance race.
Yeah, at least for this race, relative to the Schuylerville the day earlier, there is some horses in this field who have run some nice speed figures, including the 2 horses that I established as the morning line favorites, Obliteration, as well as Blinging It Back, one of 2 Marcassi trainees in this race. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Sanford. And Mike, Obliteration didn't make the lead on debut, was content to sit off another horse, but you could see watching that replay that this horse does possess a ton of early speed. The number 5, Strategic Risk, got right to the front end on debut. Probably will have to go faster if he's going to outrun Obliteration in this spot.
Yeah, I thought Obliteration, could have had the lead in the debut if they wanted it, but they didn't really want it. Probably would be wise this time if he breaks as well as he did last time. Probably be wise just to go on with it this time.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Imagine John, who is one of 3 maidens in this field. He did make his debut at Saratoga a month ago, was a decent third in that race. The winner, a Wesley Ward trainee, already had some experience under its belt. And Imagine John, a little wide on the turn, stayed on for third that day. Seemed like a race he could build upon, Mike. And Jenna Antonucci is a trader whose runners do typically benefit from a start.
That's true. I mean, yeah, this horse would actually be super interesting in a maiden race for the second start. I mean, the 1-2 finishers of that race last time, both Wesley Ward horses, both had already had a race. And that's just such a huge advantage in races like that. This horse ran fine in there, but it's not the kind of performance that made me think, oh yeah, run him in a stakes race next.
The number 2, Obliteration, was pretty impressive on debut at Churchill Downs. The bettors were not on top of this one, though, Mike. He went off at upwards of 10-1, but broke sharply. Had the lead briefly, but a horse to his outside was trying to show a lot of early speed, let that rival go. I really like to see that professionalism from a 2-year-old who was content to stalk around the turn. But as soon as Eric Asmussen asked this horse to go at the top of the stretch, he ran to his name and obliterated that field, running off to an impressive victory. And Mike, if he can build on that performance, and we know we've seen Steve Asmussen do this with 2-year-olds before in these early season stakes races, he's going to be tough.
Yeah, it used to be a big Asmussen MO too. The second time starting 2-year-olds were the ones that you really had to be leery of. So we'll see if that's the case still. I'm glad you brought up how professional he was, David, his debut, because sometimes, I mean, obviously that's a good trait for a really young horse, but sometimes I don't really love that with 2-year-old horses that are just really professional and seem like they have that edge over their competition rather than a horse who just seems like they have real ability as a young horse. So we'll see. And I'm not saying Obliteration doesn't have real ability too. He was very impressive winning. He got a figure for it. And it just feels like they've shipped him up into a really, really good spot here.
Up next is another maiden in this field, actually a first-time starter, the number 3 Honey Dutch going up for the Whit Beckman barn. And Mike, always tough to start your career in a graded stakes event, but as we were saying earlier, not the deepest field for one of these 2-year-old stakes, so why not take a shot if you got one ready to run? And I've watched some of this horse's workouts at Keeneland, and I like what I see. It seems like he's pretty professional in the morning. His most recent workout was in company with another unraced horse for Whit Beckman named Hero Declared, and looks like a horse that you might want to look out for later this summer at Saratoga if you're the type that likes to follow the 2-year-olds, because that horse looks very imposing. But Honey Dutch held his own against that unraced rival, and just seems like a horse that's training well into the debut, Mike. We haven't seen a whole lot of the Knicks goes yet, but won't be surprised if this one has some ability. Just a tough spot to make your first start.
Yeah, exactly. Just not really my kind of a horse. Again, these 2-year-old races, the stakes races this time of year, they're not as tough as they used to be. So he's got that going for him. Obviously, the connections like him if they want to debut him here. He's just not really my kind of horse.
The number 4, Blinging It Back, likely to vie for favoritism in this race as one of 2 Mark Cassidy trainees in this field. He is another maiden in this one, but maybe a little bit unlucky to still be a maiden, Mike, because he ran pretty well in this Tremont that we'll take a look at last time out, where he was the top finishing male in the race, but it was a filly who just ran them all off their feet. That was mythical, and she got a big 90-plus buyer to win this race. Blinging It Back got an 85 for finishing second, and you got to think that number was validated when the distant third place finisher Romeo came back in his next start and upset the Bashford Manor last weekend at Churchill Downs. He improved his buyer up to an 85, taking a step forward to about 20 points on the buyer scale. So felt like this was a legitimate performance, Mike, and this horse had a right to improve on his debut where he was really green.
Yeah, as opposed to the Aspie horse that we were talking about, who was just so professional and really knew what he was doing on debut. This horse had no idea what he was doing first time out, but he really ran that day. It seemed like a horse who had a lot of potential, and he did build on the debut in the Tremont last time. Just, a day where I think there were only 4 dirt races that day, David, but they were all dominated on the lead. And all this horse could do was chase. I thought he ran fine in there. It was a real move in the right direction, and he seems like he's really well spotted here.
Mike, I'd be curious to know what you think of the other Mark Cassidy runner, Strategic Risk, drawn right to his outside, because we'll take a look at the debut race from Gulfstream Park, and he couldn't have been much more impressive in this spot, got right to the front end, showed easy speed, and drew off at the end. Just not really sure what was behind him this day.
Yeah, I don't love necessarily the field that he beats here. And I also just, he's just one of those horses who he's just unchallenged all the way around the track. And here he was too fast for these horses from the gate. And when you watch the full replay, David, there's nobody ever within a couple of lengths of this horse the entire way around the track. So it just makes it really hard to evaluate how good he actually is. But listen, maybe he breaks running and makes the lead again in this spot.
Yeah, that was not a fast pace for one of those 5 furlong events, and he's likely to have to go much faster in the early stages this time. And second time out with debut winners, that's not one of the better stats for the Mark Cassidy barn. Number 6, Fistful of Money, is going to round out this field and just hasn't ever run a particularly fast speed figure. Watching the replays of his races, Mike, it seems like he can pull different kinds of trips and be okay with it. He came through on the inside on debut, got the job done over the synthetic last time, just stepping way up in class here.
Yeah, I like how game he's been in both of his starts. He's really seems like a hard trying kind of horse, and obviously he's handled a couple of different things, and it's not like he's had perfect trips in both of his starts. I mean, he's got some things going for him. He just happens to be a little bit slow.
Mike, it doesn't sound like either one of us is getting too creative here. Where did you land in the Sanford?
Listen, I just had to decide between the 2 favorites in here. To me, I would just rather have Blinging It Back, hoping that he can, take one more forward move in here. It was basically a coin flip for me, David. I went 4-2.
Yeah, I was thinking about something you were mentioning earlier, that we just have seen Steve Asmussen do well with these second-time starters, especially moving these horses up into stakes company early in the Saratoga meet, going back over the past decade or so, and Obliteration seems to fit that bill, so I put him on top over Blinging It Back with that first-time starter in the third slot. For me, 2-4-3-5 for me, and 4-2-5-1 for Mike in the Grade 3 Sanford Race 3 on Saturday at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races this weekend.